How much time we got?
We're live now. Gonna look a little different tonight. This is the Twin Cities Carry live show. We are a firearms instruction company based in the Twin Cities, Minnesota. Ooh. Hopefully you guys are hearing me. All right, let's try this. Are you guys picking up the audio? All right.
Yes.
Give me a moment. Just a slight technical difficulty. You guys want to lead a little bit? Jim, you want to give a little intro on what's going on tonight?
All right, sure. So we've tried to make the group a little more good-looking tonight. So we added a friend of mine. I was doing the math earlier today. Joel and I have been friends longer than these other two guys have been alive. So we're just going to leave it at that as far as how we've actually been. I can't. First time we went shooting together, it's been so long ago. But Joel will do a little bit of an introduction of himself as well. He's going to do a presentation for us tonight on the details of carrying in the single action only platform, something along the lines of the 911 style guns. Shane, do you think you're ready to go now?
Possibly.
We're ready to rock. Let's do this.
I think we're good.
Hey, here's the worst thing that happens. We're recording this. If it doesn't work out with the live stream, we're going to get it published out via YouTube and pushed onto Facebook that way.
Internet famous, really.
Yes, internet famous.
We're trying to make Joel internet famous. We're trying to make him viral.
In a positive light.
Not sure I want that, but thanks.
You came to the right place.
All right, so what's on deck? What do we got going?
Joel, did you have a PowerPoint you're going to share with us?
Yeah,
there?
you guys want me to start now?
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Sorry, I missed my cue there.
I'm not sure you got one.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint presentation, everybody. Stand by.
While Joel's getting everything running too, if you got questions while he's going about this topic or some other, feel free to drop them in comments on the Facebook group or the page, and we will address those in a timely fashion.
Can you guys see this?
Yep, looks good.
Good.
All right. All right, everybody. My name is Joel, and I live in Texas, but I used to live in Minnesota quite a while ago. A little bit about me. I spent about 25 years in Minnesota, and I fled the cold to join the U.S. Air Force and had a few different positions. After active duty, I did 12 years as a special agent, and that was in the Air Force Reserve, which was part-time, but I was a credentialed special agent, which is the Air Force Office of Special Investigations is kind of like the Navy NCIS, like the TV show.
Exactly like the TV show, I bet.
It's exactly like nothing is actually. So I've got some experience with some weapons, and I picked up a NRA instructor's certificate about 20 years ago, and I'm also trying to get my Texas LTC instructor credential, which that's the carry license for people here in Texas. So I have to go through a class to get that. So almost there. Anyway, so I'm here to talk about single action automatic handguns, and I've got a short video that kind of describes some differences here. Let's play that.
Hey folks, on target training out here in Oregon, I get asked this question on a fairly regular basis from subscribers or even people that I meet at the range. Why do you choose one action type over another? Why would I choose a striker fired gun versus a double action gun versus a single action gun? Well, let's first talk about what action means. As you guys know, the action refers to what the trigger is doing. This is a SIG Legion 226 double action. So the double action refers to the fact that the trigger is both cocking and releasing or dropping the hammer. In a single action gun, the trigger is doing one thing, releasing the hammer. In a striker-fired gun, the trigger is releasing the striker, which has been cocked by the slide cycling. Which one is better? Well, my answer to that question is the same I give with any time someone asks me which is better. It depends. There are some people who believe that the only way to be safe with a handgun is to have that long double action pull. And I have a very different perspective than that. The only way to be safe with a handgun is to make a lifestyle decision about firearm safety. And that means I'm never going to put my finger on the trigger until I make a conscious decision to do so. So if I'm not trained, don't practice, don't know anything about firearm safety, yeah, double action might make a lot of sense because I might do something stupid like this, like, oh, cool, a gun, wow. Well, my finger's on the trigger and it shouldn't be. So in that case, a double action pistol would make a lot of sense. However, if I've dedicated myself to really understanding the platform I'm using, understanding how to be safe using that platform, and recognizing the pros and cons of that particular action system, I should be in a good position to be proficient and safe. So, single action. Single action pistols have external safeties. And the external safety is because you've got the hammer cocked and all the trigger is doing is releasing it. So it doesn't take much work to release the hammer. So is this gun more unsafe than this gun? No, provided the operator knows what they're doing. If you don't know what you're doing, then you probably shouldn't be picking up and handling guns anyway. Why a single action trigger? Well, one of the nice things about a single action trigger is the fact that you've got a very short take up and a very short reset, so that my shots, once I'm shooting, I have less to work through, particularly that first shot, right? Safety comes off, extend, sights aligned, press. Then a double action gun, where with a double action gun, I'd have to do all those same things, but once I'm out here, I've got to now press all the way through that double action while keeping my sights aligned. So if I'm using a double action trigger, I really have to work this action a lot. I have to get it so that double action is smooth, it's clean, and it's fast. Then the second part that I need to do with a double action pistol is I also need to work the transition. So once the slide cycles after that first round in double action, I need to then immediately be on the reset and recognize that now I have this very short distance. I have that distance versus this entire distance before. Better, worse, neither. It depends on my level of training and proficiency. For years, I've been shooting striker-fired guns. Why? Because inherently for me, they are much easier to use and ultimately get people up the learning curve from a training standpoint. Very, very easy to get someone comfortable and understanding the basics of what the gun does in terms of pressing the trigger and it going bang, and it doing it the same way every single time, versus teaching someone a double action trigger. Does that mean the double action trigger is not as good as the single action or striker fired? Absolutely not. It's purely a training issue. So people say, which is best? Well, the one that's best is the one that you're going to take the time to dedicate yourself to being safe with, practicing with, gaining a level of proficiency that you can operate that firearm in any situation safely. Remember, firearm safety is a lifestyle choice, and it's the first thing as a firearms owner that we have to commit to and that we have to do. So if I follow those things, whether it's a single action, a double action, or a striker fired pistol, I should be in relatively good shape. So which is better? You decide, not me. Thanks so much for watching, really appreciate it. Finally, and as always, stay safe.
Okay, everybody. I do not have an intro slide, but I just wanted to say I'm not trying to convince anyone of anything. Just want to put this out. I know the striker fire pistols are probably the most common out there for defensive carry. So I just want to introduce you guys to something else. I'm a fan of the single action auto platform for defensive carry. So I'm going to go into a little bit about the history of them and a little bit about carrying them and pros and cons, and I've got a couple of videos later. So anyway, this all started with a military requirement for the U.S. Army, and Colt ended up winning a big contract, and that gun on the left was the original defensive model 1911 pistol in .45 caliber, and it was pretty revolutionary. It's got a 5-inch barrel. It's all steel, of course, like all guns were in those days, with some wood grip panels. The gun on the right is a variant called the M1911A1, which had some upgrades or changes. You'll see the trigger is shorter. There's a scallop area kind of behind the trigger. It also, instead of the kind of shiny bluing finish, it has a parkerized finish, which is a little more heavy duty. And the variant on the right, they started making around 1924, I think, and they made them up through the end of World War II, and they made a lot of them. Anyway, at the same time they were making the military version, they had a commercial version, which is called the Colt Government. The one on the left is the original one. The one on the right was based on that A1 design that was built up through World War II, but they're actually still making them today. They've made a whole lot of them. I own a couple of them. The one on the left, you see that kind of bright blue on the thumb safety and the trigger. That's actually a niter bluing, and that's actually what they look like when they came out of the factory. They were had kind of a fancy look to it. I was telling Jim the other day, the Colt had revolutionized manufacturing in the U.S. A lot of people think that Henry Ford invented the assembly line, but actually you could argue that Samuel Colt did. He was the one who made interchangeable parts, and that dates way back to the at least the 1860s, maybe a little before that even. So Colt in Hartford, Connecticut was sort of the center of the manufacturing universe, and pretty high-tech stuff coming out of there for its day. Anyway, after World War II, they came out with some other variants. The Commander, you see in the picture here, it's got a slightly shorter barrel and slide, and had an aluminum frame. And they were trying to get some a government contract out of that, but it ended up not working. But it was successful in the commercial market. Then later in 1970, they made it out of steel, and they started calling it the Combat Commanders. And they renamed the aluminum one the Lightweight Commander, but it's actually the same as the original Commander. Over the years, they've been so popular, there's been a lot of other companies that have been making them, mostly in the last 30 years or so. So this is just kind kind of a sample of some of the companies that are building them. Originally, they were just in 45 ACP caliber. Probably in the 1920s, they came out with the 38 Super, which is comparable to a 9mm plus P. And then over the years, there's been a you can find 1911s in most any caliber, pistol caliber. I've got a little animation here that shows you how the inner workings.
In this video, we will explain how handguns and pistols work. Let's take a look at the most important parts. The slide is located in the upper part of the weapon. The hammer spur is often called simply hammer. The slide houses the firing pin, on which the hammer spur hits when the trigger is pressed. A crucial part of the gun is the barrel. Pulling the trigger will fire the gun through the movement of the sear. For this, the hammer strut plays an important role. Let us now take a close look at the individual phases. If the pistol is uncocked and unloaded, the slide must first be moved back by hand to cock the pistol. When the slide is moved backwards by hand, the hammer is cocked. The sear engages the hammer. Let's wind back and look again at the sear and how it engages the hammer. When the slide is pushed backwards, it pushes the barrel backwards too. This will allow the cartridge to slide easily into the barrel. The recoil spring is under tension. The hammer is under tension through the hammer strut. As soon as the slide is released, the tension recoil spring pushes the slide forward. The slide takes the cartridge with it and pushes it into the gun barrel. The hammer remains cocked thanks to the sear. The gun barrel returns to its initial position. The gun is now loaded and cocked. The grip safety prevents the gun from firing. Only when the gun's grip is grasped by the hand, the trigger can move the disconnector, and thus, the sear. Let's see it again from the side view, with the firing pin. When the firing pin hits the primer, it ignites the propellant. The projectile starts to spin because of the lands and grooves cut into the barrel to provide a stable trajectory. Once again from a different camera perspective. After the propellant has been ignited, the projectile moves forward and the slide is pushed back by the pressure. Consequently, the case is ejected and a new cartridge is fed into the barrel. The hammer is automatically cocked. As soon as the trigger is released, the gun can be fired again. Let us take another close look at this. The hammer hits the firing pin, and ignites the propellant. This causes the slide to move backwards and pushes the disconnector downwards, so that it releases the sear. Thus, the sear can engage the hammer. When the trigger is released, the disconnector slides between the trigger and the sear. Now, the gun can be fired again.
Okay, hope that was helpful. I want to talk a little bit about the 1911 conditions. Sometimes you'll see this associated with the 1911. This comes from Colonel Jeff Cooper, and he was a pistol aficionado. He'd been in the U.S. Marines back in World War II. Anyway, condition 3, which some people call Israeli carry, is empty chamber and the hammer down. Condition 2 is hammer down on a loaded chamber, and condition 1 is loaded with hammer cocked and the safety engaged. I want to roll into the conditions that you would use for carry. So generally, if you're going to use a 1911 platform pistol for defensive carry, you want to do it cocked and locked in condition 1. If you see law enforcement with this kind of pistol, that's how they carry it. It's very safe with that when you have that safety on. Condition 2, I know people do carry that way. It's considered unsafe on the older style 1911s because there's nothing stopping the firing pin from hitting the primer. So if you were to drop the gun and it landed on the hammer, you could actually have an accidental discharge. Condition 3, with the unloaded chamber, I know there's people who carry that way too. That requires you to rack the slide to be able to shoot. So it's just you can carry that way, but of course you're at a lower state of readiness in that case. I want to go into some pros and cons of carrying the using the 1911 for defensive carry. The biggest pro for me is the trigger. If you've never fired one of these guns before, they really do have the best trigger out there. It has a very short take up and reset, and it has a really good feel to it. And you can have a gunsmith tune it to pretty much any weight that you want. The ones I use for carry, I tune them to about a 5-pound trigger pull, and it's just really nice. Also, the ergonomics. When John Browning designed the gun 110 years ago, there's something about it. He just got it right, like the angles and everything. It points very naturally, and it just has a really good feel to it. The thumb and grip safeties can be considered a pro also for different reasons. I think you're less likely to have an accidental discharge because it takes more than just a trigger pull to go boom. Also, if the wrong person got their hands on your gun, it also takes more than just a trigger pull.
Ooh, looks like we have a little internet issue there. Hopefully
we lost Joel.
Get back on. I expected this from Jim tonight, not Joel. Interesting.
It could have froze on a little more flattering screen.
Well, you know what? I have him covered. If hey.
So I mean, we're here. We're on the slide. Joel hopefully reconnects here in a minute, but I think
to fire. So it's almost under.
Oh, maybe.
And all right, Joel, we lost your your PowerPoint there, and we lost you for a little bit.
Yeah, Joel, you're muted. It looks like you may have even kind of been bounced from the presentation. So
Yeah, I would
unmute
suspect you
yourself.
got bounced right out and came back in.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yeah.
sir.
You want me to go back into it or what?
Yeah, let's
Please.
give it a go.
That was weird.
Yeah, we lost you right when you were talking about the wrong guy getting the gun and how the grip safety would be beneficial in that case.
Okay, I'll pick it back up there. I think my internet might have had a hiccup or something. Anyway, let me share again.
That's that Texas internet, right?
Something. Let's see.
All right.
We back up here.
Yeah, we got you.
All right. Sorry about that, everybody. Had a little internet hiccup. Anyway, so back to the list of pros here. That slim profile I find really beneficial. The narrowness of the grip area makes it just more concealable and comfortable to carry for me. The 1911s are very customizable. Everything from full custom guns to all kinds of accessories, and that's a pro. And the shooting speed. I'm going to show you a couple of videos later how quickly a skilled shooter can deploy these things. I've got a list of cons here too. I consider the thumb grip safeties to also be a con, especially for people who are a little less trained. It's easy to forget to disengage that thumb safety, and also you need to grip it a certain way to engage the grip safety. So that can cause people problems. The weight, the old style all steel, is quite a bit heavier than your modern polymer guns. That can also be a pro, I think. Maybe a little easier to shoot some of these because of that weight that absorbs the recoil. The cost,
it's actually a great shooting gun because of the weight, in my opinion.
Thank you. The cost, like any all steel or all metal weapon, they cost more than some of the newer polymer ones. Reliability is I just want to mention reliability. Over the years, especially some of the clones, some of the knockoffs, there have been some reliability issues, and even Colt and Kimber have had reliability problems over the years. Colt, I think, pretty sure their problems are in the rearview mirror, but you need to make sure that if you're going to use it for defensive carry, that it's a reliable gun with the ammunition that you intend to use for defensive purposes.
I think Colt isn't the only one. I think Kimber is there was a stretch there where they had a reasonable reliability issue too. I believe that's all cleared up now, but I know there was a few years there that
I think it was when they moved their factory. Was it to New York or wherever they moved it to, or from New York? I forget the details, but yeah.
Still,
I mean, some of those, on the other hand, STI, for instance, has an amazing, so especially the higher end ones. I mean, they have an amazing track record of reliability.
It's a hard thing to get over, though. I mean, 1911s have become synonymous with jamming, or referred to as jam-o-matics.
Well, that's certainly a part of reliability. The capacity is a con on the older original 45s that really they held 7 rounds, and now you can get magazines for 8. But of course, there's high capacity ones, and the 38 Super 9mm will have a bigger capacity also. And you could argue that there's a higher training requirement for these. And one of the videos I'm going to show gets into some of that. So this is a video. Jason Burton is in the video. He used to build guns for Wilson Combat, which is, they build a kind of a high dollar 1911, but he broke off and started his own company called Heirloom Precision. And with him is Travis Haley. He was a U.S. Marine doing force recon, special operations, and he's been in the business world for a while. He's a very good shooter. Anyway, I'm going to start that video here. I think you'll like this.
Hey Joel, we're not getting much audio. Can you try bumping it up a little bit?
I don't think I can change that.
No worries.
It isn't that same setting from last night, is it? That didn't get reset when you got bounced.
Yeah, so not anything's coming through. If this is something that is strictly visual and we're able to watch, awesome.
Oh,
But if not, we might want to
oh,
move on.
you know what? When I shared it, I forgot to engage the audio. I'm sorry, guys. I have to click a toggle something for the sound.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who has audio issues. I'm just putting that out there.
Sorry about that, everybody. Let me restart that that video here.
No worries. So, just
Special operations.
there we go.
And hey guys, we're out here on the range today, and I'm with Jason Burton. In my opinion, one of the best 1911 custom builders in the entire world. I'd say that with confidence. Maybe even the universe, because you can't build 1911s on other planets, as we know yet. So, however, we're out here just running some drills. Jason just built me a brand new gun, so we're putting it through its paces. And we figured we'd turn on a camera and share with you a drill that we're doing called 9-ball. Because we know the 1911 is what a lot of people say a limited capacity, you know, use a Glock or use another polymer type gun. All great guns out there, but you know, the 1911 for me is really near and dear to my heart because it's a gun that I carried for most of my career in Marine Corps Special Operations. And it's a lifestyle gun, right? I mean, would you agree?
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
It's
absolutely.
like for me, for example, if we were doing direct action missions, we always had our 1911s on. And it became kind of that symbol for us, you know, but there was times where I would have to make that command decision and go, wait, I'm about to go out on a reconnaissance mission or surveillance mission. I may not have my carbine working all the time, or you know, maybe I don't have a carbine. So I might want to have more that Toyota instead of the NASCAR, maybe a Glock, maybe my Beretta at the time. And that way I had a flatter trajectory out to 100 yards. I had more bullets to deal with more problems. So that's kind of where my lifestyle took me with it. But I still feel like this gun is a part of me, and that's why we wanted to share this video with you guys today.
Yeah, 1911's been around for well over 100 years. I mean, we don't have to know much about him. It's a 100-year-old gun. How complicated could it be, right?
Right.
But the cool thing about it is that it's a great tool in the right hands of an educated shooter. And I think, you know, the 1911 gets talked both good and bad about in today's society. A lot of times people say, well, you know, it's an old, archaic gun. Duly noted, it is old and archaic, but it's got the job done for well over 100 years. Cool thing about the gun is how concealable the guns can be, and again, in the hands of an educated, trained shooter, the guns can do magic. They really can perform magic.
Because you carry it every day because of the concealability, number one.
Yeah, I'm backing the gun up with a couple of spare magazines at a minimum all the time. I already recognize that the gun is not going to hold enough bullets. But, you know, many guns may not hold enough bullets. Lots of guys walk around with five-shot, you know, Chief Specials. That wouldn't necessarily be my first choice in a gun, but the 1911 has a great balance of capabilities. The bullet's a good bullet. 45 ACP is still a good round, as is the 9mm. Guns in 9mm. I carry 45 ACP 5-inch government model, all steel, all day long, inside the pants holster, backed up by a couple of spare magazines. I've never felt undergunned, never felt like I didn't have enough equipment. Dress around the gun can become a lifestyle for you. For me, of course, I'm building them as a living. I love the gun. What can I say?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I think that's a good point to lead on with this drill because of, let's say, that limited capacity thing there. You want to be proficient. Obviously, you want to be proficient with reloads on it. But a lot of people say, well, what kind of drills can I run with the 1911? Because, you know, we have a lot of guys come to our classes and they got 17 rounds in their gun. You got the one guy with the 1911 saying, hey, I can't do this 10, 12 round drill with you guys. So here's a good drill. It's called 9-ball. So we'll go ahead and run you through it. All right, so Jason's going to run the first 9-ball. He's going to run it for precision. We start slow and then we build up to speed. So when you're running these drills, keep that in mind because a lot of times we come out here, we want to just go fast. But get the deliberate practice down first. So he's going to go for all A's. He's going to run it as clean as he possibly can. 1 on the steel, 1 on target 1, 4 on target 2, come back to target 1 with 3. 9-ball, here we go. You ready, Jason? You're ready. Stand by. All right, nice. First shot, 155. Total time, 640. 640. And a completely clean run. Good job. All right.
Travis is going to run the 9-ball drill now. Of course, he's using God's gun. Again, once more, on the buzzer, he's going to draw the gun. He's going to put 1 round on the piece of steel. We're simulating a headshot. He's then going to transition to target number 1, 1 round. Go to target number 2, put 4 rounds. Then go back to target number 1 and put 3 rounds in it for a total of 9 rounds. He's going to focus on running the drill with speed. He's not going to look for A hits this time. He's looking for just kind of that rough sight picture so he can get good, solid C-zone hits, put the targets down.
I think it's fun here if you try to count his shots as he takes them.
Shooter ready. Stand by. Total time, 4:37. First shot, 1:48.
Dang.
Travis is going to do 1 more run. We're going to try to pick up the pace yet again. See even if we can pick up the pace, clean up the shots, keep at least the consistency that we had on that last one. But now again, we're working on the speed component of it. Shooter ready.
Ready?
Stand by. .146 first shot, 3:55 total time. So that's like cutting a second off your first time.
Got 2 Ds in there, so not a big deal. They're not too far outside the C zone. Again, we're working on speed there. I can always bring that back a notch. So as if I was to do this again, I'd bring it down a tenth and then see if I can really tighten those up a little bit more. But that's mostly stress sight picture, meaning what you're going to see under a really...
I'm going to move on here, guys. I've got one more quick video that's, Jerry, the exhibition shooter that's got some world records and stuff. He does something kind of interesting here.
I know what you're thinking. If 10 rounds is good, 27 has to be better. And that's one thing about the 1911 platform. There's 1,000 variations of it. This is a 9mm high capacity, 27 rounds. I'm going to see if I can get them all one continuous string of fire and see how long it takes or how short it takes to get these rounds on target. So
I love Jerry.
Here we go, guys. Here we go. That's almost like a job right there. That was about $60 worth of ammo. I don't know if you noticed it, but so actually, guys, there it is. That was actually 27 rounds on target. The total time was a 3.71 hundredths of a second. And if you break that down, if you divide it by 26, is really what you're counting is 26 rounds. At average 14 hundredths of a second per shot for 26 rounds on target. So guys, that's I give you an idea of some of the different variations of the 1911. But we're going to do some multiple target stuff, and we're going to race this same gun.
I love Jerry. He's been around forever. He's an amazing shot, and you can tell just by that 20-second video how much he still loves shooting. I love it.
Well, and I just love too, that's a lot of, you can almost see like he's getting tired in the middle of it. It's that many shots. But every single one is on target. Speed doesn't count for anything if you don't hit the target, and he's hitting the target, and man, that is fast.
So he's recently restarted his YouTube channel in the last year or so, and he's 65 years old, and he's still shooting far better than any of us will ever shoot. To be very frank.
I don't think you've seen me shoot.
All right, you're correct. I can only speak for myself and AJ and Jim.
Nah, Jim's seen me shoot. I'm not that good.
Well, that leads to a point too. You've chosen this platform. It's not something that you just stumbled on. For 12 years, you were forced to carry a duty weapon that was the double action, single action. You want to talk about, why you chose the single action only, when it was a departure from what you were forced to do at work?
Yeah. When I was a special agent, we carried a what the military called an M11, which is actually a SIG 228, which is pretty much identical to the P229. It's a 9mm. It's about a 4-inch barrel, I think. Magazine holds 13 rounds, so it's double stack. It's got the double action pull for the first shot, and then single action. And I really just don't like that the way the trigger pull goes from double action to single action. I bought a para ordnance back in, I don't know, 2007, and wasn't totally in love with the gun, but I liked the trigger a lot. And then since then I bought a few Colts, and I really like those. And I found one that I like to carry, which is a Combat Commander in 45. And I'm thinking about transitioning to a 38 Super government model. It's at a gunsmith right now, but I might be using that for carry duty in the future. But anyway, I find I just like it. I like the trigger a lot. I like the way it conceals, and it's good for me. So.
Yeah, when you talk about that consistent trigger, you're going to get that in the striker fired as well. Whereas, the double action, single action, I mean, that's something you got to practice. You got to practice that double action pull. You've got to practice going from the double action pull to the single action pull. But same concept of the grip safety and the thumb safety cocked and locked on a 1911 style like that. I kind of, one of the things I gleaned from you and I running through this last night was, the striker fired is maybe the better entry level choice for a new person. You kind of have to have some experience and some skill before you can move on to something like a double action, single action, or the single action only with the safety like that. It's not the kind of platform a beginner should use. But once you've got that skill set, there are some definite advantages if you can manage all of those details.
Yeah, and I don't have a whole lot of experience with the striker fired. I must admit, they're a bit foreign to me. I've fired a few, but I don't have much experience with it. And I really do like the fact that the safety. I just feel like I'm less likely to have an accidental discharge if I don't know, stick my hand in there, I'm holstering it or something. I don't have to worry about, accidentally pulling the trigger somehow and having a discharge. But that's just me, though.
Understandable. So I took some notes, and AJ, I'm not trying to call you out, but I wanted to get your take. I've never carried a 1911 style firearm. You've dabbled in it a little bit. And what was your take with, moving to the thumb safety with that 1911, kind of that different manual of arms?
So my biggest thing, right, and it boils down to training, and I'm confident in my shooting skill. I shoot a lot in comparison to the normal person. I can confidently pick up any gun and shoot reasonably, and I'm quite proficient with all of my guns. What I am not quite proficient with, 10 years, I carried a gun without a safety. I trained my brain for 10 years to point and click, right? Now, 10 years of experience of not doing that is fighting against me now when switching to a 1911 style pistol. I now have a thumb safety that I did not have before. And that takes a while to work out. And because of that, I actually intentionally purchased that gun to replace my carry gun that I carried for 10 years, which I would still put my life on today. But because my brain is so hardwired not to do the safety, I have decided to wait until I can properly train myself to do that, to carry that gun. That simple. I think it's a great gun. In fact, out of the box, it's one of the best shooting guns I have ever shot. I'm a better shot with that gun out of the box than with my Glock that I carried for 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely.
Point blank.
The mechanics of it allow it to shoot better, right?
I love that gun. It's great. It's gorgeous. I mean, I bought mine in 9mm because I wanted that larger capacity available rather than a 45 that has a little smaller capacity. But it's a phenomenal weapon. Phenomenal.
What kind is it?
I bought a Kimber Pro Carry 2. I've also shot the STI 2011. That's an amazing piece. I've shot Wilson Combats, also an amazing piece. I have a family member who loves those really expensive guns, and I struggle with paying that much money for it. I prefer quality, obviously, without sacrificing, my wallet.
Mortgage.
But anyways, those are great. It's a great platform in general. Obviously, some are a little higher quality. You know, there's a lot of options you can go with too, customization, things like that. You can, like any gun, I suppose, you can really rack up the bills if you bring it in and have it customized to your personal preferences. But it's a great platform. They shoot amazing. I love the weight of them, actually.
Yeah, that weight allows them to shoot flatter, manage the recoil better. I think we lost Joel again.
Yeah, he said his screen locked up. I had noticed that his facial expression didn't change there for several seconds. But
Interesting.
yeah, he's another one for that too. For a while, a lot of the guns that he had bought were used, and so he would send them into a gunsmith, maybe even before he took personal custody of it to have them restored. He has a Browning high power that is a former Israeli army issue, and I mean it was a very worn out gun when he got it, but it's been refurbished and it's just beautiful, and it's definitely, I think, what he would tell you is his best shooting gun. And again, the Browning pow power is that same mechanism as the Colt 1911. John Browning did design both of those. It just happens to be a double stack 9mm. So.
Yeah, hopefully he's able to get on. I wanted to ask him his thoughts on some of the Philippine models of the 1911s, like Rock Island Armory and some other ones, and his take on those. I'm sure those have led to some of the belief of the jamming issues, right?
Yeah, we had been talking about that last night, and he kind of glossed over that slide tonight, but he had a list of some of those companies, manufacturers that you maybe find more in the value market, and he would put Colt in that same market as well. When you buy a Colt, you can tell. I mean, it's not a top of the line tricked out gun. It's good, but you can get better. And the Rock Islands, the Springfields, the Ruger. I'm not generally a fan of the Taurus line, but generally they're cheap. But apparently the Taurus 1911s are up into the four figures now commonly. So
wow,
I don't know how much value you would say there is in that. But yeah, then you can get into those higher end guns like an Heirloom Precision or a Wilson Combat or an STI, and I mean, it's easy to spend $2,000 on a gun like that, and it's certainly possible to spend considerably more.
Oh, you can go look at like a Cabot. Your
I'm in for a G on the Kimber, adding sights and trigger adjustments and ambidextrous safety alone. Those are nothing. Those are basic carry components for me personally. I'm left-handed. The 1911 came with a right-handed safety. Obviously, I personally, am I going to do this? Am I going to carry this? I'm going to add a left-hand safety. I wanted different sights. It doesn't take much. Even a base model gun, you can start racking in some cash pretty quick.
So,
and there's that concept too. It's not necessarily quality, but when you talk about, some people will talk about in jamming. Well, you got to keep in mind too, the whole gun was designed around a military contract. The military is not allowed to use hollow point bullets, so they were never factored into the project. So then that somebody takes that gun and uses it for civilian use, and it doesn't function real well with hollow points. Okay, it was never meant to, but unless you're talking about something that is many decades old like that, the newer ones tend to have had hollow points factored into what they're supposed to function.
Yeah, I think most modern manufacturers have got that pretty well figured out.
Yeah, but as Joel said, and as we say in class too, it doesn't matter what gun it is. It doesn't matter what ammunition is. You never assume. You practice with the gun and the ammunition you tend to carry, just so that they're compatible, because sometimes particular combinations just don't work, and not for any reason that you can figure out, but you just know that that's not a combination you can carry.
I'm gonna go back.
Joel, you're on auto mute again. Now that you're back in, but we had just kind of tried to take up where you left off, talking about some of the different manufacturers and some of the things you can do to increase the price of a gun like that by having it modified, sent to a gunsmith. And I mentioned some of the used ones that you had bought, especially the darn near completely worn out high power that you had gotten off the internet as a former Israeli carry that you had refurbished into a fantastic gun.
So
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, yeah, that is one of my favorites. That high power. So I'm on with my phone. I'm trying to get back on with my computer. It works a little better. Having some internet issues here.
Yeah, I would say, based on my memory, we're done with the PowerPoint, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was over. But yeah, we talked a little bit about some of the quality things. Some people saying that they don't function with hollow points, but I mentioned, it was a gun that was designed for the military who can't use hollow points anyways. It was just something that hadn't been taken into account. But newer models, Colt or otherwise, tend to have been designed with hollow points in mind, so they should work. But just like any other combination, you gotta verify it each time.
All right, we'll do that. We've got you showing up on two screens there, not a problem. Yeah, one of my questions that I was going to ask you was your thoughts on some of the Philippine-made firearms, which I believe are your Rock Island Armories and some of the others, and if you think that the influx of the cheaper 1911 models, again specifically from the Philippines, have led to some of the critiques that you'll hear with the malfunctioning and the jamming on the 1911s. I won't lie. I'll see a 1911 Rock Island Armory 1911 in 10 millimeter for $500-$600 prior to 2020, and I'm like, I should totally buy that. What a great gun! I want a 10 millimeter, right? Like, and I catch myself every time. I'm like, is it? It's not something I'm gonna carry, but is it even worth it as having in the safe?
That's directed to me, that question?
Yes, sir.
All I know is anecdotally, some of those Philippine ones are not so good, and I don't have any direct experience. I've seen a lot of opinions online, and yeah, they might not be so good. I don't really want to make a generalization about those. You tend to get what you pay for.
Right, absolutely. That's number one. You absolutely get what you pay for. A $500 1911 in comparison to a $5,000 1911 is a big difference. Go ahead, Jim.
I didn't get any questions in on the group. AJ, did you get anything in on the Facebook page? AJ, you're on mute.
Still on mute.
We cannot hear you.
Just rolling on mute.
Sorry, I'm just talking and rambling to myself at this point.
It's okay. It's like every work meeting I've ever had.
At least this work involves guns, right?
Right?
No, as far as questions and things, there was just some comments on there. Nothing that I think warrants discussion on here. Just random conversation stuff. So.
Well, cool. I think it's interesting how often Colonel Jeff Cooper comes up in conversation. I liked his inclusion in your PowerPoint. That's something we talk about in our classes with Cooper's color codes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking about that when you started rolling into this. Maybe next week we should get into Cooper's color codes and kind of go into depth on that. And I love the different conditions and truthfully, not a lot of people outside of those that carry 1911s are even aware of those terms for the most part.
Yeah, well, they don't really apply to other guns, do they?
Right.
Can't really talk about one with a Glock, I guess.
Right.
Missing the crucial components.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, a couple things. So moving on from the 1911, I just wanted to get your guys' take on, and Joel, please comment. I don't know if you're familiar or aware of the Remington breakup. So if anybody's not aware, Remington as a company went into bankruptcy, and they have now auctioned off many of their assets. and I'm trying to pull up some of the specifics here. Initially we had heard that Palmetto State or JJE Capital was bidding to purchase their ammunition. Have you guys followed that? Have you seen anything on that?
Very loosely. I haven't seen much of the way.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of headlines. I haven't read any of the articles. What Ruger picked up the Marlin line.
Yeah, Ruger's basically going to have the market on small 22 long rifles now. I mean,
they almost already had it with the 1022, didn't they?
They did.
I would say the vast majority, yeah.
What I want to get it here. What I found interesting is I believe Sportsman's Guide picked up the Tapco line. There was a Bearing Arms article. Just when you think you're going to pull it up, it doesn't pull up.
I can't comment on any, but I haven't had my head in the news lately.
Well, it's not a bad tactic. Right?
I started a new career recently, and I'm working like 11-hour days.
Ugh, no thanks. Unfortunately, I'm not pulling the specific article up that listed who bought what. I know Ruger bought the Marlin line. Sportsman's.
Yeah, but I mean, there were like a half a dozen different pieces of it. It wasn't just a couple things. What surprised me is I didn't realize Remington had so many different pies. So there are definitely a lot of pieces being broken out this way.
Yeah. Remington. What I really want to know is, are they still going to be making the 870 shotgun, and are they going to bring it back to what it was previously? Right, the last few years, 870s. Not even the last few years. The last 20 years, 870s. They're still good shotguns, but they're not what they were previously. And I really hope that the 870 line continues. This first shotgun I ever shot was an 870.
As far as I'm aware, that's the highest selling shotgun in history.
Yep.
I can't imagine they would discontinue that line.
Must be.
Yeah.
Well, how could they not continue with the 700 when you look?
Yeah,
at
I was just going to say, between the 870 and the 700, I would willing to bet those two lines continue on.
I mean, those
that would be the only reason to buy that brand, honestly. I mean, at this point.
So, all right. So the division will go between Ruger, Vista Outdoors, Round Hill Group LLC, Sierra Bullets, Sportsman's Warehouse, Franklin Armory, and JJE Capital. The ammunition business is going to Vista Outdoors, which I believe already owns Federal.
Yeah, it's Federal and Spear and...
Yeah. Ruger's going to acquire Marlin. Franklin Armory is going to assume the Bushmaster brand, which I find interesting. I thought that had already been shelved. JJE Capital Holdings, which is the group that owns Palmetto State Armory. They're going to assume DPMS, H&R, Storm Lake, AAC, and the Parker brands. Sportsman's Warehouse will assume Tapco brand. So that's a lot of freaking brands. That's a large business. So hopefully somebody's still producing the 870 though. That would be an absolute shame. But there was no speak of who's going to be purchasing the 870. I don't know if you guys got anything else you want to dig into. Ammunition's still expensive and scarce, but it is becoming more... You're finding it a little more frequently. You're seeing ammunition, maximums on purchase, 5 boxes here, 10 boxes there. It's trickling out. Acquisitions are getting delivered, but price is up, right? You're seeing 1,000 rounds of 9mm for anywhere from $500 to $700, unfortunately. Personally, I don't think it's going to really change until 2021 second quarter.
The other day, I was in a local gun store here in North Texas, and their ammunition shelves were pretty bare, but they did have a nice stack of 38 Super. and It's funny. Some of the less popular cartridges you can find, and stuff like 9mm and 380. Forget about it.
No.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely people that are talking about switching the caliber they carry because they didn't have any kind of a supply on hand when this hit. And it's like, well, I can't get the ammunition that I used. I can get this other stuff. Maybe I need to get a different gun in that caliber. I'm not so sure that's a great reason to switch, but it is definitely something to keep in mind once ammo is plentiful again, as far as just how much do you need to have on hand, not for next month, but maybe a little further into the future than that.
And maybe I'll carry one of those Serbu shorties, those little shotguns that are that.
Yes, that is exactly what you should do. So I actually, as we're talking ammo, it just popped on Bearing Arms, and an article posted today. Arizona ammunition maker is facing an $80 million in back orders. They're working. The article says they're working right now 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, in all of their manufacturing plants. And this is Ammo Incorporated. So, I mean, I'm not super familiar with them, but just imagine what Federal's doing, what Sierra is doing.
Is Federal still in Minnesota?
It is.
Yeah.
We drove by there today.
The three of us literally just drove by it today.
They must be churning it out like there's no tomorrow.
I mean, they have to be, right? I can understand it's going to be hard to spin up a whole new line of a whole new ammo production line, but that's not something you can slap together overnight.
But yeah, if you can add a shift or something like that to increase production, man, I'm sure they're doing it.
Yeah, if they could do, I have no doubt they're doing everything they can. It's just we're at the point where we're all hurting for ammo, even if we're not hurting for ammo. So when we do see it, we're snapping up as much as we can possibly afford without the significant other finding out, and it just continues to drive that demand. I mean, that's why we're seeing the prices we're seeing too. Who would have ever thought 9mm would be so expensive?
It's easy to sneak ammo into the house. I don't worry about her.
I can no longer fit ammo in the normal hidey holes, so I'm running out of spaces that she won't see it.
Little box. She'll never look there.
Yeah, it's
we're over an hour. Should we maybe call it a night here?
Yeah, if there's nothing popping in the comments and you guys are good, we can end it here.
Now we'll be back. What was that? The 14th? Is that 2 weeks?
Yes. Yep. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. As always, this will be on Facebook tomorrow. Go ahead and like, subscribe, follow, all that stuff on YouTube and Facebook, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Yeah, Joel, thanks for being here. All of you, thanks for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me.